This conference will now be
You,
recorded.
There we
oh,
go.
my doctor was telling me that I'm at a BMI of 30, and he said, you know, that means you're obese. I was like, oh, thanks, doc. So,
Appreciate that, Doc.
yeah, that's,
What, you have your physical or something, man?
what's that?
I said, what, did you have a physical or something?
Yeah, just, I go and get checked every 6 months.
Oh,
So just trying to do my part.
cool.
My blood pressure is high, so that's I always try to keep on top of that. So I need to lose weight though. So for sure. So
Hey, shoot, I hear you.
I need to be like you,
How
man.
them knees feeling?
Uh, my joints feel pretty good. I will say though that my clavicle has, I don't know what was left of the connective tissue that may have been holding it in the socket might have finally broken loose. So it pops in and out of the, so that excuse for not working out.
You got to stop with the Fight Club. That's what it is.
What's that? Yeah, that's exactly right.
I said you got to stop with the.
Yeah, that's man. I would share that glass.
Right, you and me both. You and me both. So can you hear me okay?
There seems to be like a delay.
Yeah, I can hear it a little bit as well.
Do you think I should? Do you want me to try to go out and get back in?
Yeah, we can try that. Want to try that?
Let me do that. I'll leave the meeting and come back. Hold on one second.
All right.
All right, let's try that.
Is that any better? Can you hear me any better?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time to chat a little bit today.
No, it's good. Yeah, any time, man. I think this is certainly a worthy cause. Looking at these questions, though, some of them are a little bit unique in the sense of like I didn't even think too much about money when I was in college. So
me either. Well, let me do this first. Let me go ahead and start my little intro, and then we can start getting to the questions there.
Okay.
So, hey everyone, what's up? Hopefully, if you're a student athlete, a current student athlete, you're watching or listening to this. My name is Pat Brown. I'm a financial advisor with Edmonds Duncan here in Lawrence, Kansas. Been a financial advisor for a number of years. Played football at the University of Kansas for a number of years, or a number of years ago. Played outside linebacker and really loved my time there. I became very passionate about working with student athletes with financial literacy, which kind of led me down this road to start these interviews with former student athletes in hopes that current student athletes can learn from the successes and failures of those that went before them. And so hopefully we can get these current student athletes to get these habits sooner than later is my hope. And so one more thing before we kind of dive into it. I always want to tell the definition of what financial literacy is. Financial literacy is a possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all their financial resources. Having said that, I got my man Richard Holt, who I played ball with some time ago, back in the old days. Richard played linebacker, middle linebacker, and he was the granddaddy of our crew. So having said that, man, I appreciate you, like I said, taking the time. And if I know you're kind of starting to get into it originally, but if you can kind of talk about your thoughts on money when you first came to school, your freshman and sophomore year, did anybody ever talk to you about budgeting or savings or credit at all?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think as a freshman and a sophomore in school, you don't think too much about money because most folks don't have any. And I think depending on your background, it's varying degrees of amounts, but you don't think too much about saving and spending and budgeting and all of that, particularly when you're sort of scraping money together to buy certain things, to take take dates to movies
Yeah.
and so you don't think about it too much. I was actually fortunate in some ways because my folks would give me some money periodically in addition to the stipend that we would get. That being said, it wasn't a lot, but I was blessed in a lot of ways because my parents were both extremely frugal, and my dad worked at a bank, and so saving and watching your spending and all of that was always a topic of conversation. My mom was very, very frugal in the sense that she grew up in an environment where she was extremely poor, and as a child, the only time they went to the dentist was when they needed to have a tooth extracted. And then my dad's parents, his grandparents owned a bank out in western Kansas, and he used to tell me a story about his grandmother. I think he learned most of his lessons in life, not only about finances, but most things from his grandmother, who owned a bank in Fowler, Kansas, of all places. But she had told him to go to the hardware store to get a light bulb, and he asked if she wanted him to put it on credit, and she said, "Don't ever buy anything on credit in your entire life." So he learned some lessons there, and probably we continue to benefit from my great grandmother's wisdom and views on life in general. So
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So did you ever have the whole error and trial and error type of situation where you kind of learn from your mistakes kind of coming up, or like you said, you were just
well,
pretty much had that foundation built in you?
well, I think I think the foundation was always there, but just like everyone else in college, and I don't know if they do this now, but Pat, you probably remember the credit card deals and credit card stands that were always on campus, and so I don't know if it were T-shirts or
Pack of Skittles,
whatever they handed out, but myself, like many others, got credit cards in our name, and oftentimes spent a little bit too much in that regard. So it's been a couple of years after school paying off some of those, but that's that's something that I would advise college students to stay away from. Try to live within your means as much as you can. The things that you're buying now, they won't be worth anything in the coming years, and maybe not even the coming weeks. So be careful what you spend your money on in college. You can get yourself in a hole pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree, and I was one of those guys up on Wesco Beach.
Yes, absolutely. Probably got a cool T-shirt out of it.
I got a cool T-shirt. I don't even know where that T-shirt is. So yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. So as you look back on college, what were some of your worst financial decisions, and what were some of the best, if you had any?
Well, I think that probably my worst financial decisions were utilizing a credit card that weren't really important. I think that I just kind of just spending just without thinking about it, not budgeting. Are probably the things that I look back and say, well, I probably should should have done that. Kind of spending wildly. That's something. Those are habits that you carry on through life. You start kind of thinking about your wants over what you really need, and that sort of thing starts to build, and then you wake up 10 or 20 years down the line and say, well, I'm still dealing with habits that I picked up in college. I think the best approach that I probably took was just listening to my parents in terms of spending, budgeting when I got out of college, and really focusing on reducing any debt that I picked up, and really starting to save. And so, when being on a college scholarship helped an awful lot, because I didn't have any college debt. And so when I got out in the workforce, I was able to start saving as opposed to paying down debt. And I was able to buy a fairly modest home a few years after I graduated. And so, the debt that you carry with you through life impacts, how much credit you can get on buying a home or a car, and so on. So, just kind of focusing more on not spending wildly, and budgeting is probably the best decisions I made.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So looking back on college, and you probably already answered this, but looking back in college, what do you wish you had done different in regards to dealing with your money? I mean, would it essentially be, not dealing with the credit cards or anything you can think of?
Well, I think now, one of the things that I would do now that, wasn't available to us when we were in school, was a Roth IRA. And what I would do now, looking back, is when I was working in the summer times and so on, I would start contributing to a Roth IRA if I had it all over to do, or to do all over again, because that's something that, the earlier you start investing in, the better you're going to be off. And so that would probably be the first thing I would suggest to anyone in college. If you're working in the summer times, or have a part-time job or something of that nature, I would contribute as much as you possibly can to a IRA, because you want to save early and save often, and getting a jump start on that while you're in college would be tremendously helpful. I wish I would have been able to do that. Other than that, I just wish I would have put money away, and again, started saving as early as possible, because that's, research and studies have shown that the earlier you start, the better you're off.
Absolutely, man. You're preaching. I hear you. I like it. So then
I would also, Pat, let me throw this in.
Yeah.
I would also focus more on school. For me was kind of the end all be all, and probably a lot of the folks that we're that this sort of stuff is going to appeal to, is going to be seen by our student athletes. And let me just say that for most of us, the sport that you're participating in is not what's going to carry you through life. There's a lot of lessons that you learn about perseverance, and dealing with people, and dealing with folks from all walks of life, and so on. But the sport that you're playing now is not going to be what carries you through life. And like one of the coaches asked me one time, as I was late for practice because I had an assignment due or a quiz, he asked me, he said, Holt, are you here to play football or go to school? And I wish my response would have been to go to school. So while I didn't do terrible in school, and things have worked out pretty well for me, I could have done better. And looking back now, I wish that would have been more of a focus for me.
Yeah, I agree on that as well. wish you'd done a couple of things differently, but yeah, definitely. So again, you touched on this before. So how have the habits you formed in college affected life after college, or has it?
Well, fortunately, I didn't dig myself into a hole financially.
Mm,
So the things that I had learned growing up, again, my folks were extremely frugal, and even when they were doing the best that they had ever done, if my mom had a little bit of milk that was about to spoil, she would have she froze it and kept it for later. And those traits, living below your means and saving and so on. Those are the traits that were kind of ingrained in me from day one, and continued through my life. And both my wife and I, are focused on, our savings and, and spending a reasonable amount compared to, we've always lived below our means and,
mhm.
bought homes that were less than we can afford, and cars that, I've never been one to really try to impress, people with the car I drive or the house I live in, particularly as you get to, my age. I'm getting close to 50. I hate to say that, but that's obvious. My beard, and
You
my
look
lack of
good,
hair,
man.
but uh, you know, I, I look back now and think, I'm so glad that I didn't try to keep up with the Joneses, because my wife and I have a lot of opportunities now that most people don't, and that's really because of the discipline, and the approach that we took to money and to saving, and just living modestly. And so, there are certain things that I just don't think, no matter how much money I had, I could bring myself to do. And I actually just bought a new car after driving my last car for almost 15 years. So those are decisions that I've made throughout my life that have put my wife and my family in the position that we're in. Hard work.
Nice. What type of car did you get, man?
What's that?
What type of car did you get?
I bought myself a Toyota 4Runner. So it was actually the first brand new car I've owned. So Amy talked me into it. My wife talked me into it. So
Well, good deal. Good deal.
she can be pretty persuasive.
Right. Right. I met your wife before. You done well. You done well, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, better than I deserve.
Yeah. So again, looking back in college, what are some of the, well, I guess not necessarily looking back, but if you were to look back on some of the pitfalls that you would hope your story could prevent to young student athletes, a young Richard Holt, what would you say to them? And again, I know you kind of touched on that stuff as well, but what would you say to them? What are the things that you would hope that your story would be able to prevent someone else going through? Although you didn't go
Well,
through a lot, but
yeah, I think I'm a little bit of a unique case. I've actually had a lot of opportunities that I think a lot of the guys that you and I played with, and a lot of the student athletes don't have. And that's two parents at home, parents that instilled certain, uh, just sort of instilled certain things in them
right.
that the saving and budgeting and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
uh, I think that I was sort of in a position that was a little bit different, where my folks were able to give me a little bit of money here,
Right.
as opposed to getting a Pell Grant or something of that nature. And my parents, they always talked openly about saving and how much things cost, and they look for sale items instead of things that were, full price, always used cars, live below their means. So in that sense, I'm probably a little bit different than the average student athlete.
Yeah.
That being said, my folks live very modestly, and so it wasn't like we had a huge house or lived extravagantly, but it was just the knowledge and experience that they instilled in me, and I think a lot of kids don't have that. But from my perspective, I would again sort of go back to, first and foremost, you're there to go to school, get an education, particularly if you are on scholarship. You have an advantage that a lot of kids don't, and that's you're leaving school without that student debt or without a ton of it. So don't build up debt elsewhere, but also take advantage of the opportunity that you have in front of you, whatever sport you may be playing. And take advantage of that education first and foremost, because you really have to think of yourself as a college athlete, with the college coming first, right? Get that degree, put yourself in a position to go out in the world and make a good living. Second of all, just don't spend yourself into debt. Don't get credit cards and spend frivolously on the next new pair of Jordans that come out, or going to the bars too often, like did. And then kind of beyond that, when you get out in the workforce, take advantage of your company's match in the 401k. Put away as much as you can early and often, and even in college, if you're working, going back to what I said earlier, if you open up a Roth IRA and start putting money away, that's probably the one thing that I wish would have been available to me, and I would have had the foresight to have done that. So start saving early and often. Set a budget when you're in college, because that will carry on through life. And budgeting is a really good way to get on track. And don't go out and buy the biggest house you can afford. Don't go out a fancy car, because eventually that car is going to be sold for pennies on the dollar that you for it, and it's a wasting asset. What you want to buy are things that are going to appreciate in value.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. It's like our minds are the same, Rich, man.
That's exactly right. Hey, both played linebacker at KU.
That's right. You got to be a little crazy.
They taught us all these lessons.
Right. Right. Well, man, again, I definitely appreciate that. And I guess at this time, as we kind of come to an end, if you can kind of tell, again, hopefully student athletes that are listening, what are you doing now? Now that obviously school has been over, ripe age of almost 50, what is Richard Holt doing now?
Well, I like Pat, am in financial services. I actually run a subsidiary of a large it's an insurance brokerage. We do wealth management and retirement plan advising, and so it's been a long time coming, but I think if you just use I've just used some of the lessons that I learned from athletics, and that's it's just how you treat people. That it's that EQ versus IQ, where you navigate certain situations and interact with all walks of life and all types of people, and through athletics you learn to compete, and you build friendships, and it's just as if you allow those traits and things that you learn to carry through into the workforce, that teamwork, hard work, that work ethic. One thing that I would always suggest is never view any task as beneath you. Always be willing to do anything and everything. And if you have folks that are working for you, be willing to do the same things that they're doing, whether it's emptying the dishwasher or cleaning a desk or opening the mail or whatever. That's how you build a team and you get people to come alongside you. And so those are all lessons that you learn through college athletics and being part of a team and interacting with folks from all walks of life. Those are the things that are going to get you through life. It's not necessarily the athletics themselves.
I hear you, man. I always feel good talking to you, Richard, man. This is
Always
good.
a pleasure. We need to do it more often.
I know, man. This is long overdue, man. Long overdue. Well, gosh, I hope this pandemic's over, man. I look forward to seeing you tailgating with you at some point.
And I will offer, this to anyone watching this. If you have any questions or things that if this struck a nerve with anyone, I'm always available. Love talking to young people and particularly athletes, and I hope that this has been helpful. But I'm always willing to at least I don't know everything, but I know my own experience and all of the things that I've dealt with and trials and tribulations that I've been through and would love to help any young person.
Okay, and what's your firm's name again, just so guys?
IMA Wealth.
IMA Wealth.
Subsidiary of IMA Financial Group.
Cool. Well, man, I'll let you get going, man. It was a pleasure. Look forward to talking with you again.
Likewise. Yep. All right. Take care. Thanks, Pat.
Yep. See you later.
All right.
Get out of here.